Hello. So I am, how do I start this? I'm here interviewing Michelle Manu, and I would like to start with land recognition to ground ourselves, especially since we are speaking in a virtual space, and I thought it would be a good way to lead into not only talking about the roots of where we are and recognizing the history of the spaces we occupy, but also to lead into the history of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I am speaking from Los Angeles County, Los Angeles. I would like to acknowledge the Gabrielano/Tongva peoples as the traditional land and caretakers of Tobangar, which is the Los Angeles Basin and Southern Channel Islands. I would also like to recognize that Southern California has a history as part of Mexico, and I am a part of that history. I am a Chicana, I am a Latina. Mis abuelos, my grandparents, came from different parts of Mexico to Los Angeles when they were young. And my parents were also born in Los Angeles, and I am second generation born here. And this is my home. I went to UCLA for my bachelor's degree in linguistics and anthropology, and I am doing my master's degree on environmental education and communication, mostly virtually, but internationally with Royal Roads University in British Columbia, Canada. And I've been doing mixed martial arts, a style of combat Thai, for about 20 years. I met Michelle while volunteering at UCLA Martial Arts after graduating, and I went to her amazing seminar on Kaihewalu,
Kaivalu, yeah.
Kaivalu. And I went with my sister, and it was awesome to see a badass woman demonstrating fierceness and power. And we got to learn about traditional weapons, and it was just really cool. So, Michelle, would you like to? What do you like to introduce yourself in a nutshell?
Well, thank you for having me first. And that great review. I'm glad that you enjoyed my time with all of you because I really did. It was so nice to be on campus with everyone in an educational setting and not so much a dojo setting. It changes things because you're able to really feel like you have the time to go into history. So with that, I've been studying martial arts since I was 9 years old, and by accident, actually. But it's funny how the things that we're exposed to just kind of take a hold of us. And it was a pivotal moment there at 9 years old. I realized that martial arts wasn't a boy's activity. So with that, it continued. I continued my training. I tried different styles, and I don't know, it's just took a hold of me. And so since then I've, it's funny because I wouldn't say coming into maturity, but who we are at each moment kind of dictates what we get out of that moment and how we absorb the lesson, not necessarily just martial arts, but life, kind of how we apply it to our life, definitely and move forward. So today I sit before you as a teacher of the Kaivalulua and the only female in my group, and knight commander with the Royal Order of Kamehameha I. And I enjoy using this and bringing this not only to for the cultural system and perpetuating, promoting, and protecting the Hawaiian culture through the lua, but I also very much enjoy bringing these movements of hula and lua to everyday people through different platforms.
Great. And what were some of the other styles that you did before this?
Oh gosh, I started in Kempo, American Kempo. And then when I was in Chicago touring the Midwest for Polynesian dance, I maintained my cardio as well as with the gym through Korean martial arts. So I thought it was a really great fitness and cardio type of exercise. And then I started my Lua training in the late 90s with my late teacher.
Aha. Cool. And where did you grow up mostly?
Southern California mostly, yeah.
Right. So you have Hawaiian roots then?
I do, and my father actually has Asian too, Filipino and Chinese, and also English. And then my mother is 100% Scandinavian, so a
Wow.
mixture. I know. And my joke is that my ancestry were all seafaring, weapon-wielding drunkards.
That's great.
Oh.
Love it. So, Kaivalu?
Yes. So in ancient times, the W is the proper way is pronounced V. So we see
Aha.
it as Kaiwalu, but it's Kaivalu. Yeah. So no problem if you prefer to use the W.
I mean, I can remember I did linguistics. I can try to
Yes, you did.
remember to pronouncing things where they came from. I also saw online when looking up Hawaiian martial arts, there's not much about Hawaiian martial arts, not much information sort of readily available. I think I found a couple like Black Belt magazine articles,
Yeah.
maybe a couple YouTube things. One of them was from Hawaiian Airlines.
Yes.
So,
Yes. That was
uh,
recent for me, but they also did one probably about 15 or so years ago on a different lineage of Lua,
mm,
which was from the Ken lineage, Charles Ken. So,
aha. Was that, see, my notes, Kapukuai?
oh, Kapukui Alua versus Kaivalu. Is that the differential? Is that what you?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say there's Lua practitioners, family styles, and regular PA, which would be a group or school of Lua practitioners
Mm.
on every island. And
Oh,
like, yes. And so some the public know about, some they don't. And some wish to keep it secret and private within their own ohana, their family, and
mhm.
others tend to have an interest in sharing it with the world. So
Mm.
there's many different styles and rules and regulations, protocol governing each school of study.
Mm.
And, Ken would be one and Kaivalu would be another.
Aha.
So, yeah. And the Kapu Kui Elua is the original empty-handed art.
Aha.
Obviously, it's now we just call it Lua in modern times, and that encompasses many things. Also, the weaponry now in this day and age. So,
Right. That's so cool. I didn't know it was that diverse.
mm-hmm.
Right. It reminds me a little bit of what I know about certain Japanese styles and how they break up into like Shotokan and Ryu and this and that.
True.
And
Well, it's
I
kind of
think
like religion, right? Where they all became Protestant in their own way and made their own
true,
denomination.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like religion, languages. I guess so much of that is bound up also into culture.
Yeah, it is. And how the culture changes, and
Mhm.
society dictates a lot, even about women's roles sometimes. So, and
Yes.
as it's written from historians, not from the origin culture, they bring their own perspective. And I think,
Hmm.
you doing your thesis right now, you can
Right.
see how when you get information, it forms an opinion based on what you
Yes.
find, and try to stay impartial and keep your own findings out of your impartial paper can be difficult.
Yes. Depending on which sort of methodologies or what philosophy thing you're going into, arguably it's not really separable. Hmm? Uh-oh.
There we are. Okay, I hear you now. I'm so sorry. So please continue.
Oh, that's fine. I was saying that also relating to academic papers, depending on which methodology and sort of which philosophy you're basing it off of, arguably you don't separate yourself
True.
from your past things, and sometimes that's part of what you're writing about. So yeah, it
Hands
gets
on the
complicated.
thesis is very difficult. The dissertation is a little bit easier because you can quote yourself and you can put more of your opinions into that. So it's just, it's an academic exercise that's agonizing. It's kind
Yes.
of like a belt test, right? Or worse. So,
Yeah, actually, let's skip that moment. Let's keep talking about our sort of academic stuff for a bit.
oh,
So,
sure.
Tell me about your academic work.
Well, it's been varied because I have a secret life. It's kind of interesting that my Lua work and cultural work is my secret life, but it's very public.
Mm-hmm.
And then, vocationally, I've been in law, the profession of law for 24 years. It'll soon be 25 in this upcoming May, which is hard to believe. So with that, I started off as being a legal secretary and a paralegal, and then I earned my law degree and eventually got into leadership and executive roles, and branched out into mediation, mostly for family and business. Agonizing again. But, grateful to be able to use the principle of Ho'oponopono to make things right it's a form of dispute resolution in ancient times, into the actual corporate America in
Awesome.
usage. Yes, it was very interesting. And it, working in that really changed my view, going in between, probably too much detail, but to give the full pictures, you set a time for the mediation, everyone is agreeable, they show up at one location, and I separate the parties into different rooms. And while one will say, F this person, I'm not giving her, and he does he think that is okay, F and F and F. And so in between, like the hallway runs, right, I get to take out all of that emotion and get down to the facts. Like, she won't accept this, what else, I think she might accept this, what do you think, and vice versa. And at the end of the day, we would have an agreement. So
Wow.
I think a lot of life, even our martial training, is when we get frustrated with a technique, you can see it, you feel it rise up in you. And even as a teacher, you see these lightning bolts shooting out of the student. Like, why can't I get this? What is wrong? And that impedes their ability to really learn. So to calm it down, to slow it down, to not expect yourself to know everything. And, that's how I don't know, it's branched into, teaching and also vocational. So my training, I go on to earn some business credentials at Harvard Business School, as well as George Washington University. So that's my background.
Wow. So you've done a lot of like being the mediator work, it sounds like?
Yeah. And it's, I can't say it's fun, but it is definitely challenging and interesting. Fulfilling in the sense where you see others finally come to a resolution.
I don't know, have you ever actually been in a physical altercation with somebody, or has it been like kept mostly to in class?
No, I've had 2 incidents. I mean, even more when I was younger, of course, when I had no control over myself. I was, it's funny, I was trained, but I wasn't trained like I am now. And I was much more dangerous in the past because I didn't have control over my emotions. But I did, in fact, oddly, have 2 incidents in the last, since 2014, at workshops where you feel where you feel the safest, and actually anything can still happen. So your guard is down. Kind of like, I guess we should prepare for anything, because there's the fight, flight, and freeze. And in those instances, you don't expect it. Kind of like, us women that experience something with possibly someone we're dating, or someone that you would never think would approach you in a certain manner, and the freeze comes over. And it takes a while for your heart to match your mind, and then the adrenaline's pumping. So yeah, I didn't expect that. And it's funny when we train and we use what we know, there's this aftermath that happens. I don't know if it's just with women or if it occurs with men, but I can tell you with myself and several of my students that when we do learn what we've trained in and we do use it just to nullify a situation, to de-escalate, you actually have this physiological response and psychological response of feeling badly for what you use. It's the oddest thing in the world. And I experienced that both times and had to self-counsel and talk myself through it, and said, no, you had every right. You didn't hurt her and you didn't hurt him. They're 2 different instances. So it's very fascinating, the control and that little split second of you wondering if you should respond. But when your face is being crushed and when your throat is being crushed, you absolutely have to make a decision immediately.
Right.
So, yeah. How about you?
Luckily, like, knock on wood, I've never had to ever actually physically defend myself from somebody. Like when I was little, I remember being like bullied, but I kind of spoke
Yeah.
my way through those, or just kind of went home to my abuelita. And there's part of me that's like, I feel like there's, especially in a lot of Western culture, you need to stand up for yourself. Like you're almost encouraged to fight back, to do something. And part of me is like, I should have done something. But part of me is also like, maybe I'm cool that I did. I feel kind of cool that I didn't, that I tried to talk this out with somebody and I didn't just like immediately try to kick them or something.
Well, every situation's different. And sometimes the individual, it's not worth it. And then other times, if your safety, your physical safety is being threatened, then yeah, I mean, there isn't one right way to respond. And, you hear people all the time saying, well, I would have, and you should have. And we really can't do that because we're not in each other's shoes. All we can do is care.
Right. And luckily, I've never been in a situation where I felt like I really, really had to, like I was in physical danger from anyone. I feel like that would be something quite different. And even in places where I felt uncomfortable, I was able to leave the area.
That's really the whole goal, is to get away safely, not duke it out, because there are no rules, no refs, no time clocks in real life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. coming back and thinking about it, but of course, like in the classroom and like these safe spaces, I've like sparred, I've moved with people, but that's an entirely different different beast. And I also feel like it's different if you're by yourself versus when you're with a group. And I feel like that's part of the self-defense classes we tend to think about too, is if you're with someone that you feel like you need to also sort of protect. Like if I'm with my sibling, I know I'm much more on high alert as to like, who are you? What are you doing? I don't like you.
Well, we can feel it, can't we? So you kind of know something's up. I mean, especially if we train martial arts, especially since we train. Sorry about that. I put it on Do Not Disturb and a call still came through. I don't understand this phone sometimes. No, but I think that we're more aware, and I think we have to think about our training in the dojo versus real life, because it's not going to happen like it happens in the dojo. And if we're going to practice, we need to practice at the dojo. If we get hurt, we should get hurt there in learning things versus learning it on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like it's good. I know it was part of my training. It was also part of your training to be put into these, of course, it's nothing inside is the same as outside, but in these mock scenarios where you do want to be stressed and having people coming at you or pinned to the ground or shutting off in some of the worst positions that you could possibly be in.
Been there.
Yeah. You're just like sprawled out and have just like over 200-pound guy just all wrapped up, and he's like, okay, get up. And I'm like, try to get up.
The best part is when that happens and you get thrown or taken down and they're hovering over you and the beads of sweat are just dripping. That's the best ever.
For me, I always tend to be like right in someone's armpit as I'm trying to escape.
Great.
I'm just like, oh yes, I have been baptized.
Literally.
Let me see. Jumping back on one of the questions, back to Kaiheva Lua?
Yes, Kaiva, yeah.
Kaiheva Lua. How is your interpretation of the art different?
I think, it was about 7 years ago where I was asked to contribute to a research paper for UH, University of Hawaii, Hilo. And it forced me to sit down and actually write out the lua and the hula to see the comparative movements. I think it's different for me because from my male counterparts, because and I can't speak on their experience
Right.
because, but we both have masculine and feminine within us. It's both,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the art.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think it's being able to see the fluidity turned into targeted releases of power, and how the hula allows us to master our footwork and timing, so that when we do move it from the non-contact to the full contact, that we're able to adjust in micro movements in our lower body, as well as position the woman and the kids and the grandkids to throw out the weaponry and come back and guard the mother. So
Mm-hmm.
it has been really interesting for me. I always loved my hula, but not like I do now.
Mm-hmm.
It has really transformed my ability to be an effective warrior and show them the flow of the potential coiled energy of the feminine in a setup to the masculine release of that power. So that is how it is for me. And it's made me love my Lua even more, and how they're so intimately intertwined. I can't separate the two anymore. And that's why sometimes I've been told my hula looks masculine, and possibly so. I've also been told that my hula, you can see the, how would you say, the punctuation, the exclamation marks and the commas and the periods. And you know, at first I felt a little insulted, but now I realize what a huge compliment that is. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to something my sensei told me, is that especially about my style of martial arts, Kombatai, it has a history. It's an old mixed martial arts with a history of ingraining lots of different styles into it. And
Beautiful.
one of the messages my sensei got from, I think it came down from his sensei as well, was the idea that if something stays the same, then it's not alive anymore. That if something stays the same, then it's dead, and that if as it continues to grow, it changes and it adapts. And that's kind of how I see style of martial arts. Some would say that some purists would say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," and it's not the same thing anymore. But I suppose I'd be in that controversial camp of
Yeah.
let it change.
Well, I know, as we look back at history and we see our ancestors evolved,
Mm-hmm.
then we must evolve too. But
Mm-hmm.
remembering what the foundation is and
Oh yeah.
speaking to that regularly to keep it alive, keep it engaged, to provide understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And but here we are. And you know, I believe that my ancestors would have used Zoom to continue to teach during COVID. I believe my ancestors would have transcribed into writing some of, well, all of the cultural practices that were only passed down orally. So these are some of the changes that we're making to preserve the information and properly archive it.
Right.
Because, you know, that we, in my opinion, I'm very mixed. And my daughter has Samoan and German, and then my grandsons have Black and more English. And it's like we keep breeding, and eventually, while there are very, you know, many full-blooded, well, not many full-blooded, but you know, primarily Hawaiian natives back home, you know, most of us were around others, and will you know, procreate. And do we continue, the question becomes, as teachers, do we continue to pass that information on to our blood, even though, you know, some don't look Hawaiian at all? Like one of my nieces, she is a completely fair version of me who just turned 20 yesterday. Her features are identical, her eyes are blue, her hair is blonde, and she looks identical to me. And so
Wow.
it's, you know, and her father was English, so it's very fascinating, you know, to see the mixtures and the beauty of the mixtures and the diversity, and the strength of the genes, frankly. It's
Yeah.
pretty remarkable. You know, there's this term, I one of my Navy SEAL friends revealed to me back in the early 2000s, and it was an agricultural term of hybrid vigor.
Mm,
And it means to become more than the parents when they start making hybrids of certain things and perfecting that. And that's what I feel like our breeding has become, I mean,
mm,
very diverse and stronger, and hopefully adhering to and respecting and revering what was and who was before them. And I
mhm.
hope that I'm raising my grandsons with that way of looking at life.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful analogy. I think so. I think so too, and I hope so. And it definitely, the roots are still there. It's just a matter of how they're growing.
Yeah, and how we continually connect with those roots. Yeah.
Hmm. And slightly linked to a topic earlier, moments you can think of when you found strength from the feminine, from being a woman. I know you mentioned how you saw a lot of that from when you did Lua, or do Lua in
Yeah.
combination. I mean, sorry, hula in combination, hula in
Yes, yes.
combination with Lua.
I think it's just been a journey.
Mm,
I've always been well, no, I've definitely been a tomboy. I
mhm.
definitely appreciated my friends who, surfed and skateboarded and played and wrestled and climbed trees, football, all of that. They were all guys growing up. I
Mhm.
had a hard time um, really embracing the lace trimmed socks and the different color ribbons in the hair and the fancy dresses. And today it's ironic because I love my gowns, right? I love my heels, but I also still love very much getting dirty, getting down. I love the
Mhm.
full contact. I love to know where my limitations are. I love to know what my release of power is, 20%, 40, 75.
Right.
Um, I love that. And I think, as I continue down this path, I have so many amazing female friends now, more than men.
Mhm.
I understand it's not a competition,
Mhm.
contrary to how society likes to pin pin us against one another, the
Mhm.
Instagram world.
Mm,
I love being a woman. I love everything about it. I love the intuition.
mm,
I love knowing things before they happen, even though I can't place it in the tangible. I can feel it in the intangible, and then it starts to be revealed as I ask for more to be revealed.
mm,
I love connecting with my friends and my students and other women in the world, and their experiences, because we all have our story,
mhm.
and which it's shaped us, and some of it is not healthy, some of it we need to let go. Some of us struggle with the processing aspect of that and being able to release. Some of us release some of that sooner than others, but it's all in divine timing. It's all
Mhm.
trusting in who we are at this moment, and what serves us properly now. What
Mhm.
protect us in the past in these mental constructs may not serve us now. And I think that's part of being a woman, and the incubation period and the birthing period, the nurturing, the destroying, and then the putting to death of something. This is what we do, whether
Mm,
it's goal or a relationship. Aspects of ourself, shadow aspects, will teach us a lot about what we fear and how we avoid those things and the resistance that comes up. This is all a part of being an amazing woman during this time in our world. Um,
mhm.
you said that we're encouraged earlier to fight back, but
Mhm.
that wasn't always the case. And so we're very blessed right now, energetically, to be able to feel like we can even do that.
Right.
And just because we can, do we? Is it the wisest thing? So using
Mhm.
our wisdom. So yeah, I use the feminine. I mean, I can't be separated. It flows through my blood. It's in
Right.
every breath, as well as the masculine too, and to honor that side as well, the
Right.
action energy. Um, so yeah, I just so grateful to be here as a woman and to exemplify the power of a woman in my little corner of the world and what I've been trusted with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely something I identify a lot with, being a tomboy as a kid. Like I was off playing, naming off wrestlers and luchadores from WWE, running around on the school ground with my friends. Many who at the time were guys. Also, more so recently, I've tended to meet other female or non-binary or genderqueer friends,
Sure,
and
sure. Yes.
yeah, so I appreciate that as I've gotten older, I've kind of broken some of that binary thought, and I realized that it's kind of complicated. There are feminine, there are these masculine things kind of everywhere in different
Yeah.
levels. And yeah, for me personally, if I could share one story about from a moment when I
Mhm.
found uh, strength in the feminine. I remember when I was training, I trained in Japan for a little while. I was helping to teach English through something called the JET program. And in it, I tried going to different martial arts schools until I found a place that I could actually get to reliably and that were welcoming to female uh, American.
Yes. Double whammy.
Yeah. And I remember during one of the sparring classes, and it was respectful sparring, one of those ones where I'm working with a lot of adults. Most of them were, I think I was usually the only female in there. There had a bunch of adult males, older teenage boys, and so we're all sparring. We're being respectful. Of course, you're not going in there just trying to immediately pulverize and disrespect the person in front of you, but you are pushing each other. And so I got banged up. I don't remember exactly if it was bruising or if it was a torn up foot from blisters on the
Yeah.
mat.
Yeah.
But I remember that afterwards, because there's the female changing room and then there's the male changing room. And so I was the female area with some of the moms, so, some of the women who had children in that class. And they were like, "Oh, Kristari-san, are you okay? Like, it looks like it hurts. Like, you get hurt. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't remember exactly what I said because my Japanese is rusty. It's been a couple of years since I've been there, but I do remember saying something along the lines of that, like it hurts, but I feel like women's bodies or many female bodies already endure pain.
Absolutely.
And this was the pain that I wanted to go do. Like I wanted to be here. This was the one that I asked for, not the one that comes to
Love
me like every month anyway, since I was 13."
it.
And they got
Which
it.
is
They're like,
also healing and regenerative as well. So,
mm-hmm.
mm,
And so they're like, yes. So they got it. They're like, yeah, like this struggle, it's already part of us. Like we're
yeah.
not these fragile things. Like we're strong. We are absolutely strong
Well, I love that
things.
one. Thank you for sharing that because it reminds me of one wonderful saying that I love so much. Um, Not fragile like a flower, fragile like a bomb. And that is so true.
Mm, I like that a lot. Yes.
I know. Careful, right? Because we're not emotional. I mean, I saw something too with this, the presidency, the
Mm-hmm.
elections happening. It was mentioned be president, they're too emotional. And I tend to agree.
If you've ever been in the same room with a man blowing up before, that's
Hmm.
uh, you see, kind of looking through some of some of the stuff I have written down. Let's see. So related to martial arts again, and how does your relationship with martial arts, especially with being women or female presenting, to also being caretakers, and how do you find the time to balance all this in? How is it like hobby life,
It's an excellent
etc.?
question. I Let me see here. Um, It's a challenge, of course. I mean, I remember when I first started teaching women, and anything could happen. The vacuum would break, or someone needed a ride, and we're so easily knocked off our focus to train.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I wear myself too thin. I'm made a certain way. I used to think it was incorrect, but I realize now it's just the way I'm made. And
Mm-hmm.
we really just should embrace who we are. But I do burn the candle a little bit too much and too quickly. It's not a lifestyle. For some reason, I've been really imbalanced in my training and in my duty as a teacher and my responsibility to the culture. And it's all I think about.
Mm.
And I know that we are a Richter scale. Everyone talks about the B word, balance, but sometimes that's a different sort of scale for some of
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'd like to put my life in a pie and percentage it out, it doesn't work. I
Yeah.
I've recently, even just last week, have been able to step into, it's taken me a while to allow myself to even entertain the idea of leaving my vocation to teach and to work with women's empowerment and self-defense full time. And
Mm-hmm.
as I align my spirit with that and welcome what the ancestors and what the universe has for me from last week forward, I embrace the possibility of leaving corporate America. While this would allow me more time to train personally, which I need,
Mm-hmm.
to fill up so that I can give that back out to the world and my students.
Mm-hmm.
I'm completely imbalanced all the time. I'm going to own that. It is a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I will be thinking about this 24/7. I will be
Mm-hmm.
training in this. I will be a leader in this for as long as the ancestors will have me, until my last breath. And I wish I could be that martial fitness model that some mistake me as, where it would be very easy,
Mm.
where you can have shifting ethics and be whatever it is, whoever's contacting you about exposure, to be that. But it's not going to be. I say no more than I do yes, because of my responsibility to represent the culture, the art, the my foremothers who were warriors and leaders, in the Kapu Kui Elua, and as well as women as a whole, martial or not. And so um, I wish I could say it was just a hobby, but it has really sunken its roots into my soul. And I get emotional thinking about it, because what an extreme blessing that is for me to have a clear picture of my purpose for this lifetime. So thank you for asking.
Oh, it's so moving. I feel like a lot of times we have this image of what we're supposed to be, or like how this balance is supposed to happen, but life's messier than these perfect ideas that we have set up. And I feel like, especially for a lot of sort of martial arts, this sort of thing, or at least for myself as well, I identify with the idea of there's this thing that I'm supposed to be, but I'm not that perfectly parsed out. Spend spend an hour in the morning doing martial arts, and then I'm gonna eat breakfast, and then I'm gonna do my schoolwork, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely what I'm gonna do. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, I didn't sleep last night. Let me just 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna make brunch, and then I'm gonna try to read my paper for today, and then I'm gonna try to edit, and then oh no, it's noon, and it's past noon, and I haven't done my workout yet, and I'm like, ah.
It's a constant squirrel. And then the phone's going off and phone calls are coming in, emails are coming in. And,
Mm-hmm.
at some point we just have to throw up our hands and say, I'm doing my best. I'm doing, if we are truly connected with our guides and an angel team,
Mm-hmm.
you so wonderfully opened up the beginning of our discussion with that. I too ask for leading constantly. And that means it's always going to go the way I plan it.
Mm-hmm.
Life is messy, extremely messy. And I think our response only allows us to get through things with the best interest in mind for everyone involved, and let go and get that out of our body. We hold those emotions in our body, which end up dictating how we perceive things, and quickly shifting our perception into gratitude for even the most ugliest of lessons. And if we can stay there, then we are living our best self every moment. So these expectations of being a type A and Stephen Covey's, all of these to-do tricks, and you add in, all the other self-help, some of it's good, but sometimes it's just shedding all that we know and simplifying and just being able to apply those things we know work for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And along with those, I feel like also allowing myself forgiveness when I don't do those things, as opposed to just spending the next couple hours being like, I should have done this.
Yeah.
Why didn't I do that?
Wasting more time, right?
Wasting more time. And then it's
and energy.
Exactly. So how do you ground yourself then? It's like you were talking about looking to that guidance from your ancestors, from where?
Well, I have a specific routine, and it works for me, not only for my personal body, mental body, spiritual body, but also for the space in which I reside, as well as where I teach. A lot can be dumped in that space, and worked through as I work with certain women and men on an anniversary of an assault or a rape. So, a lot is revealed during that time as they move and they shed through their movement. So it's important for me to keep that space clean as well. I know every culture has, their own rituals and ceremonies. And then, you've got the Love and Light group today, which is not always love and light. We have to also provide for the shadow and for the darkness to come in and embrace that as both pump through our blood, whether we agree to it or not. It's there. And so I have my own rituals. It's morning and night. And anytime I feel anything otherwise, I will call out and give permission to my guardians and angel team to solve and resolve. I used to think they had to wrap them up and take them out the front door and remove this energy, but really, it's just allowing them the immediate and permanent permission to step in on my behalf and on behalf of the loved ones of my heart that may be hit with something that's being sent my way. So that's what I do.
That's lovely. I definitely identify with it. I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then, well, maybe I just need to do something for me. Like, what works for me? It's not
very true.
There's lots of, like we brought up earlier, self-help books and guidebooks and things that can tell you can do this, and trying them is great. And then you'll find one thing, or maybe that one thing is not even the thing that works all the time. Maybe you need to have a couple things that you try. So sometimes journaling works for me. Sometimes I can't even sit down to journal because I have too much anxious energy, and then I'll go out on a walk and try to focus on little things that I find outside, or look at the sky, or do this, and then that becomes my grounding thing, and I try to become aware of myself in this space, in this larger thing. And so sometimes it's going real old school, and it's picking up my abuelita's rosary and like finding a spot with my little Bible or my cross and praying some Hail Marys and some Our Fathers until that repetitiveness helps me. So here's my
it's either that or analysis by, paralysis by analysis. So, and then, that's also a good topic is, movement. Movement is medicine, and it's based on where we are in our spiritual state. So, if you're peaceful and introspective and welcoming messages and asking for revelation and awareness, then, light goddess walk in nature, or some Tai Chi, or some light yoga, even dance, like hula, slower hula, more of the wave-like contemporary Awana hula. Then you move up and you're fine. You're kind of peppy and excited, and kind of feel good. Then those are the medium weight, body weight exercises. That's maybe a brisker walk, or maybe some kickboxing, or whatever might continue that energy. But, if we're anxious and we can't focus and we're angry or we're confused, then the harder full contact, very extreme type of harder body, more difficult body weight exercises, maybe a sprint, all of, matching where we are in our spirit and our intellect at that time is really honoring that specific moment of our existence. So, all those people that push through and they're at the gym at 5:30 and they're exhausted, they're on 3 hours of sleep. And then you start to not make consideration for the body, then things start to break down. You're not in sync with yourself. And, it's really important to be in tune with where we are and to not judge it with emotions. Say, that's interesting. Why am I here? What am I bothered by? Then you bring out the journal and, but maybe you have to first get through anger and you don't even know where it's coming from. And so you go and you do the extreme workout, then you're able to quiet down all of that energy is out of your body. And then you're able to get the clarity. So I think it's just working in cooperation with yourself, all facets, including your body, instead of railroading it and treating it like a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually reminded me of something I used to do. And then I do a variation of it now. I used to love going with friends, especially if I was struggling or a bunch of friends were stressed out because it was a certain time of year when a bunch of things were happening, and we'd go do karaoke and just bring out like all of the loud, either angsty songs or like sad songs or the happy fun songs, and we'd just jump around, and it was this big old thing. And now, even if I'm not with the group of people anymore, I'm like on a drive somewhere, I'll have that angsty music just going in the car, and I'm just like, bah.
That's awesome. There was a young lady that drove up next to me last week and she was rocking. She was playing air drums and just screaming, but not angry. She was just with herself. It was awesome. I waved at her. She waved at me. I was like, you go. And she's like, oh yeah. It was really cute.
That's great. Let me see. Sort of different from what we've talking about so far, but I did want to touch on, since we're also talking about international education.
Yes.
So you have, what have been your experiences with learning either internationally or not even within different places, but within different cultures, different groups? Have you experienced culture shock before?
I have actually. I think, especially with education like Chicago and Boston, Cambridge, and then, DC, and Hawaii. They're all their own different culture. Some will argue that Hawaii is actually international and not part of the States. Right. It is like its own country, from merely the way the expectation is in which you will complete your work to the timing of that. And the leniency of, asking for clarification and the way that you're responded to. So yes, it's been very interesting and culture shock in not so much of a poor way, but just, I think the key to learning in different areas, whether it's the States or abroad, is to be open, to not bring your current mindset. And I don't know what others feel, but for me, it's to not bring this mindset of Southern California to wherever I am and have those expectations. I can tell you 2 years ago and last year when I was in Zurich, and even Graz, Austria, it was shocking to see that when I brought out just the knife to teach techniques, that they were very shocked and quiet and started whispering, because they don't have, it's not a prevalent attack where they live. So I never did bring out the gun. You can imagine what that would have been like, but they're very much into open-handed techniques. They're so far from their teachers as far as Asian martial arts. And so to have a teacher like myself there from the States, but teaching an indigenous art from these beautiful islands that they are so far from, and they love to visit and they want to know more. And the reception was good, but they had a hard time initially just putting their hand on a very hard plastic knife. So yeah, culture shock in that sense of, we have hammers here too. I didn't bring the hammer. I asked for a hammer and they brought me one, but I realized, even though it's not a prevalent attack and maybe they should learn it, that it was probably too much after learning the knife. So using our discernment on how not to shut down our students or our, you know, our fellow colleagues, and when we're studying abroad. So there has to be many considerations other than just everything's much smaller in Europe, right? We're used to a coffee that's this big and it's this big, and it costs more. And we, you know, we're brats. We're absolute brats. I mean, even the toilet paper rolls are half the size, and they're pink, you know. So it's like we can't use as much, and the showers are small, and there's no reason to. It's a slight inconvenience, but absolutely worth it. And there's no reason to not embrace the culture and all the many things, the beautiful things that come with it, such as when I asked you, Crystal, how are you? Am I even listening? In the American sense, we kind of just, it's a nice, cordial greeting, but we're not really listening. When I'm abroad, when someone asks me, they're intently looking into my eyes and they really want to know how I am. And it almost feels a little intrusive initially, but then you realize, my God, they connect on an entirely different plane than we do as Americans. And again, not to feel like it's intrusive, but to share, to connect, and truly in response ask that individual, how are you? You know, how are things? And so it's a beautiful thing to experience. And it, you know, there's things that you very much appreciate about being abroad. And then you also appreciate certain things like the large coffee when you get home. You know? So,
Yes.
oh, yes.
Yeah. My culture shock was definitely when I spent 3 years in Japan teaching English, and
Amazing.
it was a culture shock going, and then it was a culture shock again coming back. And something you learned about, and something I was told from other people on the program, is it's something that's not like, it doesn't have to be immediate. It can be something that like comes up and goes away, comes up and goes away. It's something that comes and goes when you least expect it. And for me, I know one of the things that I was nervous and trying to maneuver my way around was these whole levels, different levels of respect, and who gets what respect where, and
How?
And how exactly,
How much? Yeah.
And how much, because the last thing I want to do is be like rude to someone on accident. I remember my first like week of work. Before you leave, you're supposed to excuse yourself for leaving early, and you say "osaki ni shitsurei shimasu," and I wanted to make sure that I said it right. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. And I was sitting at my desk like trying to practice to myself, and I was there for almost half an hour extra, just trying to work up the courage so I could do it right. I think I worried a little bit too much about it. But
you'll never forget it though.
No, I will never forget how I was just sitting there. I was sad. And I'd like stand up and I'd be like, no.
That's so great.
But I know.
Isn't that funny?
I
You can
learned a
think of
lot.
something like, oh, sorry.
I learned a lot. I know from that. I learned also how to make mistakes, and it's not always the end of the world.
Yeah.
You were saying?
Oh no, I just think it's funny how when we recall something like your experience, how you're instantly transported back into that time, and you can remember what you were wearing and what season it was and where you were sitting, and how you're sitting there incessantly just practicing, and all those emotions come up again, and it's a nice reminder. You froze there for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm back. You're back. Cool. But I got you remember being there, wearing, and how you're feeling, and
oh yeah, and all those emotions come up again. It's like you're there again. It's just a nice reminder of an experience.
Yeah. What would you say were some of the like strengths you came back with after mingling with all these different cultures, or from learning?
Okay, there you are. Hello.
Hi, sorry, having
It's okay,
trouble
no
now.
problem. Uh, I think mostly the learning was within myself, to be more flexible. That there are many beautiful ways to live life, and that I create most likely out of my own habits, a way that I attack life, the way that I see life, the way that I respond to others is just in our culture, what we deem as acceptable and not acceptable. But then
Mm-hmm.
it just blew off any of those fences for me, and allowed me to really take in different parts of the world and how others live their life. And it's so beautiful. That's really what I took away from it, is there's so much more in the way that I'm perceiving life, so many different ways. And
Mm,
remember that as I return back to Southern California.
it's beautiful. Yeah, gaining these different perspectives on things, and
Yeah,
it kind of just opens up things you didn't even always think about.
it's true. Little things, and yet profound things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the end, we're all humankind, and the generous and kind welcome and care they gave me while I was there. I mean, it's also at a different level too. So grateful to have experienced that,
Mm-hmm.
and will continue to. I'm set for Munich next year,
Oh,
so
exciting.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully, COVID will go away, calm down, let us resume safely. Safely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If not,
Yeah.
then it will be 2022.
Nice. Do you have advice from your experiences for people who want to go beyond their little comfort zone bubble of learning spaces?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, UCLA guy, says, to make a friend that doesn't look like you,
Mm,
um, which I think is great. But I think, even more is to become close with someone that doesn't look like you, that doesn't, to learn a different perspective on life, and to travel, absolutely, because that will open your eyes. There's beauty everywhere in this world, human and nature and otherwise. And that
yes.
get out of your immediate circle. Doesn't mean you have to befriend everybody, but go and experience life, and stop allowing fear or the what if to get in the way. You have enough right now. Whatever is drawing to you is a message. Whatever you feel would interest you is a message. It's up to you then to step into that. It's a gift. It's for you to open that gift and say, oh, I step with courage into
Mm,
clearly what I'm supposed to be experiencing right now. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. So stop this and start this, and get those two to align, and work in the intuitive a little bit, because it's constantly knocking at our door. But yet we want to, simplify pro and cons list, and
mm-hmm.
go from reason. But it's not all we live in. That's not what we're all made of, is just the brain and
Mm-hmm.
processing. There
Mm-hmm.
is the spirit. And if we're ready for it, and it's the little lessons, it's the pretty lessons where it's subtle, right? Which I tend to miss all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's those subtle messages where it's kind of a nudging, and you say, oh, I want to do that. Nah, not right now. Or I'll wait. We're always waiting for something. Everyone's always waiting for
Right.
something. And then it gets stronger. And then it shows up in a different way, and it's through a stranger's words, or it's through a dream, or it's a
Mm-hmm.
blatant commercial, or it's something that you're studying. It happens to reinsert itself. And there's these synchronicities that happen. If we are paying attention, you will go and do
Mm-hmm.
it. Otherwise, it will come in a more severe message until you're forced to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the advice I would give, is honor yourself, honor your path right now in what's being revealed to you. It doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to call 4 of your closest friends for them to opine on it and give their approval. It's not for them. It's only for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the quiet, and being comfortable in who we are at the moment, and being comfortable and connecting with who is and what is leading us. And that will only become
Mm-hmm.
stronger the more and more you do that. So
Right. Yeah, that was definitely the leap I took when I decided to apply. I was like, hey, family, I know I've never left Southern California, Los Angeles before in this manner, but
Going
guess
to
what?
Japan.
I'm going to Japan.
Right on. And what a
And
great experience.
it was. I definitely came back. I was about to say I came back a different person, but I don't know if
Yeah,
it's so much different as more true to myself.
good. That's
Kind
all we
of,
can ask for, self-evolution. That's
yeah,
why we're here.
yeah. And again, related to what you said about getting out of our heads, I feel like the connections I made with people come from the heart. They don't come from I know this.
Yeah.
They didn't come from, oh, I studied Japanese for a year. They came from, oh, this person, I was lost, and this little old lady on my first night knew where I lived, and we hardly communicated, but it was raining outside, and she was like, oh, do you have an umbrella? And I didn't remember. I recognized the word for umbrella. I was also so nervous, like everything was blah blah blah. And I said, no, I don't have an umbrella. And she gave me her umbrella and walked me home. And like that was a heart moment. That wasn't an intellectual thing that brought me there. It was humanity that brought me there. And then I became friends with this little old lady.
Well, it sounds beautiful. On a larger note, you can be in hell and paradise. Then in the Hawaiian culture, you are welcome like that through an actual person. It's just the land, sea, air, and earth elements, and the guardians welcoming you. It really is. So that's beautiful. Beautiful story.
Thank you. Let me see. We've talked about it a bit, but are there any other notes you want to mention about how martial arts has affected your life, either professionally or academically?
Well, I would just say, as it pertains to corporate America or anything, life is a martial arts technique, and
Mm,
we have the option to stand there and get pummeled when a situation occurs, or we're dealing with a difficult individual,
mm,
or a deadline. We have the option to step out an angle. We have the option to step out, angle, and parry. We have the option step out, angle, parry, counter, and then we
mhm,
have the option ultimately of finishing the technique and
mm,
finishing the opponent. And I think if we look at it like that, when we're in our vocation, or we are studying and we're at the higher levels, even at the low, bachelor's portion, it's think of something as a very difficult technique. It's not going to come naturally, and you're going
mhm,
to have to practice. So, it's creating healthy habits, and taking that moment to respond wisely after
mhm,
you've thought about it, after you've felt about it, instead of just, immediately spouting off in emotion and then doing something or saying something that you'll regret. So, and
right.
if so, that's a lesson. That's a checkpoint. Hopefully you learn from it. Some can't control themselves. So I was like that for quite a while, and it took me a while to learn that, oh my gosh, everything is a Lua technique,
Mhm,
everything. And so now when I look at it through that lens, I'm able to understand where I'm stumbling, where I can't connect my power, where I'm being ineffective, and where it's not flowing. And it
mhm,
helps me to determine what I need to do. So
mhm.
hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Do you feel like it's helped you move through male-dominated spaces as it tends to be in martial arts, but also outside of martial arts? I know it's helped me feel a lot more confident with myself and my abilities and where my strengths come from, even in places where I feel like I don't belong.
I understand. And while it's very wise to know what we will most likely be up against, there's also, it's superseded by knowing who you are and
Mm,
what you're capable of and what you have to add to this
mhm,
world in whatever environment. And I think when you get to that place, when you finally arrive, you realize there is no gender. We're all spirit, and we're here to contribute. While others will not address us in this way, they will not treat us in this way, it's very important for us to elegantly and powerfully move in that energy and to
mhm,
remember that at all times. Um, for me, it's been a process, not just internally, but also with my brothers and also males in the martial dominated community. Um, There's quite a few amazing women out there in their respective arts that are
Mhm.
masters and leaders and are more and more teaching the world, especially now through COVID, through the virtual platform, and also
Right.
getting together, supporting one another and teaching one another. But as far as men, I hate to say it, but women do have a poor reputation that um, they can't bring it, which is ridiculous. I
Mhm.
think that part of my role is to be able to show the power of a woman so that it kind of wakes men up and to say, don't underestimate. And also for my fellow women, our fellow women, to say, if she can move like that, so can I. And so part of what
Mhm.
I do is try to awaken others into their power or into realizing others, regardless of genitalia or identification, that
Mhm.
we are powerful in our own right, and we have the right to
Mhm.
be in certain places, and we will not go away. And
Right.
that's been a process for me to understand I am sufficient. This
Mhm.
moment, whatever is presented to me, whatever is the event I will go to, whoever I'm introduced to, clearly my guides believe that I am sufficient and have everything that I need. And if I don't, I will ask them to give me the words and give me the knowledge so that I can, in fact, do what they're asking me to do before an audience or at an event or even at an appointment. So you too, and everyone watching, are also sufficient. We don't have to be perfect. We are who we are at this moment for a reason. Are we going to be this person tomorrow? No. And next week? No. 5 years from now? Absolutely not. And that's
Mhm.
okay. We still retain who our spirit is, but we're
Mhm.
constantly evolving. If we're in that willingness. That's the whole key. You have to be
Mhm.
willing. If you have
Mhm.
any, okay, fine, I'll do that, but I won't do this, and I mean, everything within legal and moral reason. They're not going to ask you to do anything that's uncomfortable. Other than courage and to step through that. So yeah, we are whole as we are, and we can always become better and evolve. And that's really the gist of the message, is to trust in that, and to move through life that way.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
100% believe it. And
I
everything
can
I do comes out of that. Everything.
I can feel it. I remember when we
Uh,
did that seminar with my sister, there was just this power. And I remember thinking when I was there with my sister, I'm just like, oh man, it's so awesome. I want to move with that sort of
Good.
confidence and grace, but also powerful. And just like you look so sure and just like here and there. And I was just like,
Oh,
it's so cool.
thank you so much. And I still work on applying that
You were
sureness
very,
to other areas. So,
but yeah, you definitely have. Even if you feel it's not always there, I've witnessed and experienced that moment of the presence.
oh,
It was awesome.
good. Thank you. That's not really me, believe it or not. I'm serious. When I did a lot of spiritual work before I came to be with all of you, and I know for a moment that if I let my ego, which I really don't have one, I don't like being placed in a situation where I'm compromised. So of course, you think fighting back is an ego, but it's actually standing up for what is right. But
Mhm.
I know, 4 years ago, I would have a little bit of anxiety of general and success, right? So
Mhm.
you're asked to go to an event and you're like, oh, I hope I'm enough. Okay, let me put out the agenda, nothing's coming. And maybe a couple things. What weapons do I pack? Do I even bring weapons? They want this and this. I hope that I remember to say everything. And it was just kind of a kick in the head like 3 years ago, where it was like, okay, so anyway, let me rewind. You go, you do all these things, and then you have the success. Oh my God, that was great. Thank you so much. It's exactly what my group needed. And then you have that success anxiety, like, are you sure? I could have, oh
Mhm.
man, I could have talked about this and this and this.
Mhm.
And you're never free from that. And it's like, oh, enough already. I want peace. I've done my job. That's it. It's over. But then, when you step into that quiet time of what do you want me to bring? What do you want me to speak about? What do you want me to show? What will be too much? And to just completely let go of the ego and know that you are enough. Whatever happens during that weekend or those 4 days that you're there, with few people intimately or a lot of people, that you will be enough. You'll have all the information within you. If not, it will be given to you. And I know for a second where I think it's just a platform for me to blah, blah, blah. This connection with my ancestry and the guardians of this information will be stripped. I know this. And then I will be back to 3 years ago where I'm like, I'm not really sure. It's so wonderful to be sure. I want nothing more in life but to move in this knowingness, to take it out of the know about, take it out of the knowing into that knowingness and move forward in that so you can just be. And it has been a remarkable process within myself, and nothing else compares. Nothing. And I'm so grateful to be here and to continue to move in this energy. And I'm so happy that you felt that. So thus, it's not me. It's something divine, something otherworldly.
I think it's also a bit you, but yes. So that's definitely something to bring forth in academia and work and martial arts and everything.
Well, this was the way of the warrior, right? They couldn't say, I hope I make it off the battlefield. They were already dead men and dead women. They knew when they ran onto that battlefield that it was ultimately the greatest honor to serve the people and to die for their beloveds. So, taking that mindset to the battlefield of life, we have to be sure you go over the pros and cons, you get there, and then does that match with the intuitive? And so if it does, then we move forward without any question. And I think that's what we must do in all areas of our life.
Right. Yeah. In all of our battles.
Right. Some aren't really battles. Some we take on too much, and others we can just literally walk away from because they're just insignificant. But those that require our attention, we must make sure that we make the best educated decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you still have time for a couple questions?
Yeah.
All right. A not so serious question this time. So, dealing with martial arts in general, how do you handle your hair? My hair has always been it's always been a struggle trying to figure out what to do with my hair when I'm doing martial arts. As of right now, it's kind of like a medium length. I've had it longer and I tried pulling it back in a ponytail. I've tried bobby pins, I've done headbands, but it still manages to fly into my face
I know.
whenever I'm doing
I hear you. Oh, it's so funny. It's kind of like the never-ending quest for the perfect sports bra.
Yes.
I'm still on that quest. I should just make my own. It's not that bad because mine is so very long. And I've questioned, should I shave my head to make a statement? Should I cut it shorter? But the longer it is, honestly, the easier it is to take care of. I have absolutely zero products in it. And for work, I do put it in a librarian bun every day, right at my crown. And that takes really large hairpins to do so, which is they're also very great weapons, right, to use. I do that. And then for workout, it's either a ponytail, a braid, my students call it a black belt bun.
I love it.
So, it's wrapped up low or high, and it can get in the way though, but just like, body parts, if they're a little bit large and unruly, they get in the way too.
True.
But I really, some of us are still OEM original parts. And I truly believe that, with my shoulder width and back size and extra large rib cage, I'm supposed to carry certain things. And it's learning to work in cooperation with that. So, Yeah, I mean, luckily it's not too difficult. I wonder now that I'm a grandmother if I should in fact cut it, but it seems like a lot of work when it's short. So I'm not really sure, but yeah.
I don't know. For me, I had my hair fairly long for most of my life, and then I decided to, when I was in Japan, my second year, for many reasons, I decided to just cut it all off. It was part of my, uh, like mentally, spiritually, it was part of like letting go of like these old things, and it was also, it was really hot and humid, and I didn't like my long hair, and it was
They're
hot and
pretty
humid.
stylish out there too, right? So they have all those really cute bob hairstyles.
Yes, so I had my hair cut up short, up in a pixie cut for the first time ever,
Oh, wow.
and it was cool. I went to practice. It wasn't in my face, and it was easy to wash. And all my students are like, "Kakue," so like there's like, "Oh, so cool," and I was like, "Thanks."
I love it. Well, you have a beautiful face, so you can pull that off. Mine's like really round like the moon. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Aw. So yeah, hair has always been an interesting thing to try and figure out what am I doing with it in practice. And then sometimes I'm like, I shouldn't be thinking this much about it. Like, who else thinks this much about your hair?
Well, I mean, something we have to work with, like the sports bra, right? So, or
Mhm.
ill-fitting, workout pants that seem to want to drop below the crotch area. It's a problem,
Mhm.
But I mean, in many indigenous cultures, the hair is very significant. In fact, in
Mhm.
the Indian culture, it's believed that it's a spiritual antenna that you can actually feel energies approaching you with your hair. And
Mm.
there was also that study, and I don't know if it was actually proven or not, but when they started to recruit Native Americans here for the military, they found them to have superior warriorship and skill levels as far as athleticism and accuracy with the bow and arrow, and also in shooting. And as soon as they went to boot camp and came and they shaved their heads, they were tested again and found that their capacity had diminished quite significantly. So
Interesting.
yeah, a lot of things, and it's also a recording. You DNA companies, consumer DNA
Mhm.
companies now can tell you a lot about your hair. I can tell you that anesthesia and a surgery will be stuck in a portion of your hair. You can read the events of someone's life just by a strand of hair.
It's so
So
cool.
cutting that off could also be therapeutic.
Can. It
Yeah,
definitely cut some things off for me. And now I feel like I'm playing around with the happy medium where I have
good,
I have
good.
I have a section that I'm letting grow out long, but then you can kind of see I have an undercut on one side.
Oh, I love that. See, I would
So
love to try it. I think, if life was different for me, I probably would do a cute bob, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Maybe
we'll
I'll just
see.
shave my head and get another tattoo.
Yes. Yeah. And on the sports bra thing, I feel like sometimes you do find one, but then because they're elastic, they kind of just start falling apart on you, and you're like, no, not this too.
Oh, everything goes to mileage, right? Just like we age how we maintain. So
Mm.
don't dry it. Hang dry.
Yes. Mistakes are made. And who is your female hero?
Oh, wow. You know, I it's interesting because I have so much admiration and respect for the women that I walk with on this journey. There may not be Lua, but whether they're in the goddess community or my students or other fellow peers
Mhm.
in the martial arts community, there are so many that are my hero for certain aspects of life, whether it's what they're contributing and how another one could be their beautiful poetry of truth, how they can just kindly cut through some of nonsense and get the point across without being inflammatory. What an art. Then there's
Mhm.
others that are just so beautiful and kind and supportive no matter what. And so I have the heroes are the ones that show up every day, that don't
Mhm.
talk poorly about other women,
Mhm.
that really dedicate themselves to being a better self every day, every moment. and those that, you know, love and respect others, including me. There's no reason why I have so many remarkable women that have presented themselves to me over the years. And I truly am grateful, and they are all a blessing to me. So those are my female heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do have to say, Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde, the second story flat scene with the hose. Oh my God, love it.
Yes, absolutely. And we have, it's hard to narrow down any one because there's just so many people who are our heroes. Like my first will always be my mom. My mama, such a powerful woman. Even if we don't always see eye to eye on everything, but different views of things, we're always meet each other, and she's just so strong. And I remember when I was little, I used to be annoyed by how pugnacious she'd be sometimes. Be like, I'm gonna go fight for this, and I'm like, why, mom? Why? You're just embarrassing me. But now I see it's like it's because she's such a strong woman, and she won't take flack. And
Well,
I'm like, yeah.
on that note, well, that's, I mean, amazing. That's wonderful. And she'll always be your hero. Well, I remember I raised my daughter the same way. I'm sure she witnessed. I was very militant when she was growing up. Unfortunately, you know, it's the progression of who I was, an oldest of five. So, you know, it was just my nature. But, you know, it's interesting. She'll be 28 this month. And I remember it was probably when she got back from her studies at where she actually smarted off a little bit and had her opinion. And I thought, well, you don't talk to me like that. And I thought, well, wait a minute, time out. You raised her this way. You raised her to have an opinion, whether it's to you or anyone else. And so this is not, you know, it's not disrespect. She's a woman now. And, you know, as a mother, our roles progress and they switch. And so now I'm advisor, and that's the way it works. And if she wishes to share any part of her life with me, it is not required. It's a blessing for me that she wants to connect with me in that way. So yeah, raise them to be strong, and then you don't like it when they come back.
So I'll tell my mama next time. I'll be like, you raised me this way.
Then she'll probably give me a call and I'll say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. For my fictional female hero, I know my first one was, I used to watch Mulan when I was Disney Mulan when I was a little kid, especially because I had asthma, and that was part of what made me go into martial arts when I was little, is because I was this tiny girl who had breathing problems, and I watched this video over and over again of a woman who was just a badass and taking care of her family, and so smart in the movie. She's like solves all these things, not necessarily always through power, but because she was clever enough to figure things out and how to work things her way. I haven't seen the new one.
Emotional intellect, yeah.
I haven't seen the new one. I'm too afraid to. To me, I'd rather just have my little childhood image of this character. And I know similar other female warriors throughout history. Whenever I read about them, I'm just like, they're so amazing.
This is true. They are.
Yeah. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Was there anything else that you wanted to mention? Or anything you feel like we haven't talked enough about?
No, I think I'm really happy with our conversation. This has been more of a girl talk type of thing. I think that's what Paul wanted too. So
I hope so. That's what he's gonna get.
So comfortable and funny. Good points. Thank you. And your questions are excellent, Crystal. I get asked some questions that are, a little bit on the borderline, and you've been very excellent research and questions that you asked. Thank you.
This is my first time leading an interview, and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna do this.
I love it. Thank you for having me. Thank you for even thinking of it. I look forward to working with you more too when it is time for your secret assignment to become public.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So I might as well throw it in the recording because it didn't come out beforehand. I'm doing my thesis on environmental education and martial arts. Specifically, I'm interested in Kaihevalu. Valu?
Lua, yes.
Yes, I'm getting it. And the idea that our actions, different aspects of culture influence our relationships with the environment, with nature, with non-humans, depending on which definitions you want to take for what environment and what nature means. And seeing how martial arts can be a part and affect that, and we'll see how that turns out, and hopefully soon.
It's exciting. I'm really excited.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
just the initial parts still of getting the right methodology, getting the right words for arguing it. It's my first time doing something like this, so seeing you also doing academic things, it's like, yes, it's doable. I can do this.
It is. It's just, not getting hard on ourselves for not keeping up with the intended deadline, because I'm behind as well in my studies. So, but when you're putting a whole cultural system online, when you're teaching regularly online, and then you have, I've recently been able to work with real estate professionals on safety. So I'm getting that classroom up. So
Sure. Yeah. No, you're doing great, I'm sure.
Just breathe. That's all and go for the goddess walk. I think my dog saves me when I am forced to get out from my desk and that seated position. Same with my students. I have to go to the dojo and teach, and they get me moving. And otherwise I'm just, everything is, we're not supposed to be inside this much. And, I'm looking forward to not being at the computer so much in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll be sending an email very soon because my supervisor wanted to know exactly how many days, which days, how many hours I'm probably going to be doing the things. So I have to re-ask when classes are and the hours.
It's only 2 a week, and then there's self-study. So you'll have, of course, access to the entire online university. But I teach for the Wahine group because the men and women are separate, like it was in ancient times. So Wednesday night at 6 and Sunday at 11:15.
Gotcha.
And I will be adding more classes too. So, but the self-study is a lot, and we go quite a bit. It's a bit action-packed classes. I work in fitness too, because especially at the lower warrior levels, the foundation is very important that we have a baseline of conditioning, strength, flexibility, so that, and balance, so that we can even do the movements, so that we can even move into techniques. So putting the flow together. So yeah.
Yes, I I got the women book not so long ago from Hawaii, and I read the little section on, because I didn't want to read the whole thing. I just read the little section on female warriors, and I saw the challenge about standing on a gourd or something and not breaking it. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. And the author, one of the authors, it's a daughter and a mother-daughter, and beautiful artists. And then the daughter and the mother, she's 45 years research scholar there on this topic of Kui Alua, the ancient men of Hawaii and the ancient women of Hawaii. And so she knows, and she has 3 references for everything that she says, and she's backed up, and she's waiting for me to film that, to film standing on a gourd.
That exact thing. Oh, wow.
Yes.
It's so cool.
It really is, because we don't, part of the uniki, the graduation in ancient times, to prove which type of Lua practitioner you would be, is to scoop out an opponent's eye and eat it, or to kill a family member. Obviously, these are parts of the culture that we will no longer be perpetuating, but it's good to know. So one of them, to graduate just merely from a beginner would to be one of 3 challenges would to be stand on the gourd.
Wow. That's so cool. So intimidating, but also so cool.
I will most likely do that when I'm back home. Yeah.
Awesome.
Probably be easier to do in the sand, right? Because they'll have a little more give. Cheater! Oh my goodness.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much.
Thank you. And I will send this to you as soon. It should be about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you going to email this to Paul as well?
Oh, do you want to do it? Or I can include you both on the same email. Would you like that?
Yes, please.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.